War is just a part of diplomacy and the last thing to settle conflicts between nations. Why is Russia almost quiet on the front line now? The rumor has it that NATO and Russia are starting peace talks. Probably the main reason is G20. Russia is not a rogue country, so they have to cease fire during G20. And another reason may be grain shipments from Ukraine. Russians think it is their responsibility to ship Ukraine grains safely to the world because they don't want to cause food shortage in the world for a humanitarian reason. The recent Russians' retreat may be for these political reasons. The West politicians and media as well as people are now hugely under the US influences in many aspects. Nordic Europeans speak US English fluently and they might think they are a part of the US in their subconscious. Or maybe those countries are deeply funded by the US after the World War II. That may be a reason why Sweden and Finland decided to abandon neutrality and join NATO. Thanks to Hollywood movies or other media propaganda, many people are brainwashed by the idea that the US is an ideal democratic country despite many facts pointing out the opposite. Its political system is far from democracy and many Americans know it. If the US were democratic, then China also would be democratic. Remember, Americans can be so brutal to do tortures like waterboarding and so on. It is weird that almost nobody in the West claim about the US human rights abuses. Maybe their propaganda by the media or many sources is successful so far. Unlike what we have been told, Europeans as well as Russians are far more humanitarian than Americans. It's easy to understand that without competition, economy becomes monopoly. Same as politics. If people have no choices, democracy system is nothing but a dictatorship or oligarchy. Do you think the US people have choices in politics? Of course not. Democracy is easily manipulated by money and power, as you see in the US. It's almost impossible for people to stand up and say no to the political power who have huge money and power. Japan have changed the election process to create a bipartisan system like in the US because Japanese people have been brainwashed to believe the US is an ideal democratic country. Now Japanese have no choices other than the sole ruling political party. We are taught ancient Greece had democracy. It depends on definition of democracy. Ancient Greece democracy is far from today's democracy. It is just another kind of oligarchy. As you know, Greek people at that time used slaves to keep their wealthy lives going. Only 10% of Athenian people could join the assembly. Most of the people are slaves like today's cheap laborers, and they had no rights in politics. The US is incarnation of Nazi Germany. You might think it's an insane idea. Nazi Germany and the United States share the common idea: world domination. Yes, Hitler's dream finally comes true. In the US, as you know, the United States hired many Nazi scientists to develop rocket systems. This fact alone suggests how they want to be the sole superpower in the world, which is very scary for other democratic countries. And the US is the worst of the worst because the country is created by an idea that money and power is everything. So-called American dream. They killed many indigenous people with firearms to become rich. The US doesn't care about democracy. They care about money, and now that money comes from defense industries. If the US is democratic country, then why so many people are suffering from poverty, inequality, drug abuses, violence, mass shootings and etc.? Why history is so important? Because it is a proof that people have been protected by their nations for a long time. That means humanity is the core of their politics or social culture. However, the US, as a country of immigrants, is quite different. The land of opportunity. means money is the core of politics or culture. Whatever they say, the US has been seeking global domination through money and military power. They use the word democracy for an excuse to do that. Although their regime is not democratic at all, European countries as well as Russia are trying to protect their own people. But the US is using people as cheap laborers. The US never forget to send a paycheck to you after doing something for you.